Hey guys, Tekking101 here. Okay, so there has been a lot of discussion and hype as of late on this new arc of Dragon Ball Super, the Universe Survival arc, and I think the crux of it all is in the characters that are going to be fighting for Team Universe 7. These are some characters that we have not seen fight, not just in Dragon Ball Super, but also just in the majority of the story. You know, we thought their time had passed, like Master Roshi and Tien Shinhan, and then of course we have Krillin and Gohan and Buu stepping up to the plate. You know, they're fighting for the first time in a while. So all of that stuff's going to be really interesting, and I want to see how the anime is going to play out. But today we're going to be talking about a character who we have not seen in fucking forever, and a character we know is super strong, and I think one of the most interesting additions to Team Universe 7. I am, of course, referring to Android 17, motherfucker. Slayer of old men, ranger of parks, and wearer of orange ascots. Can you think of any other fictional character that can wear an orange ascot and make that shit work? And no, I'm not talking to you, Fred, you fucking blonde jock piece of shit. No, it's not a scarf, it's more of an ascot. Anyway, the point is, Android 17, when was the last time we saw this guy? Alright, you might have to think about that for a second. And no, before you go to the whole stupid Hellfighter 17, Super 17 bullshit, just get it out of your mind. Remember, GT never happened. It was like 15 years later, but we finally get a series that makes up for the sins of the past. No, when was the last time canon in the story we saw Android 17? Okay, well that would have been the Buu Saga, and he only made a very brief cameo there. If you remember correctly, near the end of that arc, when Goku was on the Kai planet, charging up the spirit bomb, ready to lay down some heavenly judgment on Kid Buu, Vegeta first tries to get people to give them their energy, and only the Z fighters, you give them the power. And then Goku tries, and he gets a few more people, but not enough for the spirit bomb. But one of the few people that did surrender some energy to Goku when he pleaded for it was Android 17, and we only get this very brief scene here when he's in the middle of a forest wearing a jacket, raising up his hand like, oh, I haven't heard that voice in a long time, here you go, Goku. So that was pretty cool that we got to see him there. And also, by the way, this was after the point where Earth had been destroyed by Buu and then reconstituted by Piranha, and I believe the wish that was made was to bring back all the the good-natured people that were killed by Buu or something like that. So they had to make sure that Bobbity wasn't revived or anything like that. And 17 was revived, so it could be seen that he had a change of heart and he was a much more good-natured person. But what happened to him in the intervening time between the Cell Saga all the way up to the Buu Saga and now in Super? That's the topic of discussion I really want to delve into here, because a lot of interesting stuff happened that was basically only reviewed in interviews with Toriyama, stuff that wasn't actually addressed in the story. And I just found out about this stuff recently, so maybe I can give you guys some new perspectives on our good friend Lapis here. Yes, that is his real name. That was confirmed. First off, you know how, I think it was Team 4-Star that started that joke about him being a park ranger? Oh yeah, I'm gonna range the shit out of that park. We all had a good laugh, and when I saw him in the Buu Saga, I saw him wearing that outfit, and I was just like, oh, he's just out in the woods, just doing whatever. He's always been kind of a loner type. No, I thought Team 4-Star was just making that joke just because that's what he looked like. No, it's confirmed. He is actually, legitly a park ranger. That's what he did. Okay, so after Cell absorbed him, and then Cell blew himself up, and then they made, the wish to Shenron to revive all the people that Cell killed. 17 came back to life, which I find that a little bit odd, because Shenron didn't have enough power to, eliminate the androids, or turn them back into humans, or get rid of them, and yet he does have the power to bring... He can't mess with people that are stronger than him unless it involves bringing them back to life. I've noticed that about the dragon. That's a little bit of a weird glitch. But anyway, 17 gets brought back to life by Shenron's wish, and then Krillin makes the second wish to remove the bombs from the androids, which they do as well. So he's back, but we didn't really know what happened to him there. So what happened to him in that intervening time between the Cell arc and the Buu arc? Remember, that was a 7-year time skip we had there. What happened to him in those 7 years, and that was confirmed by Toriyama in an interview he did back in 2014, I believe, is that he went on to become a park ranger at this Royal National Wildlife Preserve or whatever, as part of one of the cities, one of the areas in the Dragon Ball world. And he was really good at his job because he's fucking Android 17. No one's gonna mess with him. And he gets paid a lot for his job, so he just likes it there. He's living a very happy life. But that's not the kicker. You know where the kicker is? He got married to a zoologist, I guess, that was working in the natural preserve. He had one child with her, as well as 2 adoptive children that I guess, were part of the zoologist, like his wife's like previous marriage or whatever. So, I'm not shitting you on this. Android 17 is a dad. He went off and got a job and then became a family man. He has a wife and 3 kids, one of which is his own. So, I found that out, and I'm just like, no fucking shit! Why wasn't this brought up? I hope this is brought up. I hope this is mentioned at some point in Super. I hope when they go and try to find Android 17 to recruit him for the new freaking, the Universe 7 team, he's just hanging out in a log cabin in the wilderness preserve, you know, sipping his morning coffee, and he has a wife and kids, and he's like in a fatherly role, you know? It blew my mind. Apparently also he's been keeping in touch a little bit with 18, you know, who is his sister, and Krillin as well. Apparently he went over there to see them a few times, but Android 17 never really talked about what he did. You know, I don't think he mentioned that he was married or he has kids or anything like that. And this could be just because he didn't want anybody to know about it. You know, that's maybe against his personality or something. Or maybe he's changed. You know, he's turned over a new leaf from the murderous bot we saw him when he, like, brutally just killed Jiro. You know, he's become different now. He's changed. But of course, that was just... So when we see him in the Buu Saga there, we see him, you know, wearing the jacket out with the rifle in the wilderness, you know, that was canon. He was really a park ranger. Also, it's important to mention that he has a propensity to use guns. You notice that? I always found that weird. Even before the park ranger, he had the rifle, he had that pistol on his side, you know, in a holster. And I think he used it one time, I think it was in the history of Trunks, to, like, threaten an old man. But you're just sitting there wondering, like, why does he have a gun? He can literally, like, there's no reason why he should have that other for than just to look cool. And I think that's the reason. Because remember, Android 17 and 18 weren't originally supposed to be the Android designs. They were supposed to be, like, I think Jiro and Android 19 were supposed to be the original threats. And then Toriyama's editor was like, they look fucking stupid. Or they look weird. Just do it again. And so Toriyama had to kind of, you know, rather last minute had to come up with these new designs, so that's where Android 18 and 17 came from. So maybe when Toriyama was designing 17, he's just like, he just needs to look cool, you know, badass orange scarf ascot, and he's got a gun. Why does he need the gun? I don't know, he has the gun, it's cool, whatever. So that's just an interesting thing about his character there. In terms of power, though, people have asked, you know, can androids get stronger? All right, and I think most people are already aware of the error in translation that is android. We really should not be calling them that. In the Japanese, I'm gonna go full weeb on you here. It was Jinzo Ningen. Ningen mean, of course, human, and Jinzo, artificial, you know. Just think of Jinzo, the Yu-Gi-Oh card. That's what I usually do, okay? So artificial human is the better translation of what they actually are. And that's explained a little bit better when in the Buu Saga you have Android 18 and Krillin, you know, being able to... you know, and have a kid, have Marin, you know, so they're not like machines on the inside and they just look human. They're not like fucking the Terminator, which would be an actual android. No, they're modified humans that maybe had some key of their own, that were powerful on their own, that, you know, Dr. Gero came across and then modified them to make them even more strong with the knowledge and the technology that he had. You know, remember Gero was researching the Z Fighters for years and gathering information and learning about them all the way up to the Vegeta saga, you know, and all that shit. And so he incorporated that technology and the explosive devices, modified 17 and 18, Lapis and Lazuli. I believe they were orphans, actually, because there was a lot of backstory found out through, like, interviews and Daizenshu information that we never found out in the actual story. But yeah, so that's how they came into being. Now, one of the interesting things to note is that the only way we've seen 17 right now is in the opening, because he actually has not appeared in Super yet, outside of flashbacks, of course. And we see him in the opening, and what he's doing is he's, like, charging up an attack. He's charging up his aura, you know, he's got the ki flowing around him, and then he fires a big-ass energy ball. Now, that's pretty weird, because androids, from my knowledge, from what I'm going off my memory here, but I'm pretty sure it was said at one point that they don't have the normal energy thing that most humans do, or most other, like, non, robotically modified robots do, so they don't need to have, like, the big aura coming off them or anything like that, like the key. They have, like, an internal reservoir of energy, like a battery that, like, recharges after a certain amount of time or something, right? So that's just interesting there. Now, that could be something that they just don't pay attention to and be like, well, it just looks cool to have the fucking flowing aura around you, so maybe there's an explanation for that or not. Perhaps they went undergoing some sort of key training in some way, so they could learn how to utilize that on top of the robotic enhancements. That would be pretty cool. But beyond that, I'm not going to say he's like the trump card or the wild card in the sense that, like, oh man, no one expects much from him, because, he's still fucking strong. He was strong enough to go toe-to-toe with Kami and Piccolo when they were fused back into one character, and I understand this was back in the Cell arc, but by that point, we already passed over characters like Krillin and Master Roshi, who are also going to be fighting in Team 7, for Team Universe 7. So I would say if you're going to pick a wild card or an underdog, a character that you just don't expect anything from and they might pull something out of their ass, I would probably say Master Roshi or Krillin would be one of the choices there. I'm expecting a lot from Tien Shinhan, by the way. My expectations are really high for him, so I might get horribly... I might get bitch slapped there, but I have a lot of high hopes for Tien. But I have a lot of high hopes for Android 17, too. I hope more than anything, this backstory that is existing and only, like, Daizenshu information and data books and interviews, I hope this is brought center stage in Super, at least when they go. There's probably going to be a whole episode dedicated to just maybe, 18 and Krillin going to try to find, like, oh man, we need one more member. I think 17 is going to be the last one, personally, I think. I think they're going to have all 9 members, because those are the members that are already in their little group. You have, Buu and Roshi and Tien Shinhan. Those are the guys they already know and hang out with normally, like even Tien Shinhan, he's a little bit of a loner, but he was at least around during the whole Frieza shit and during, the thing with Beerus and, the beginning of Super. So they're still in contact with Tien. 17 has not been seen in fucking forever. So I feel like we're going to get to, like, the 9 members of the team, and everyone's going to be like, oh shit, who else? And then 18's going to be like, okay. And then her and Krillin are going to go and find 17 and tell him about the situation. And, I hope this stuff is brought up then, and I also hope it's we get a little bit more of their relationship as brother and sister, maybe explored a little bit more, because it's funny, because we found out that 18 and 17 were brother and sister at the end of the Cell arc, when they're never seen again after that. At least not on screen. We don't get to see that moment, so we find that revelation out, like, oh shit, they were brother and sister. But then we never see 17 with 18 after that in the canon of the story. Now, of course, you have moments like in GT, when 17, I believe, was brainwashed by Hellfighter 17, by Dr. Mew and Giro or some stupid shit. And so that you had a confrontation between Android 17 and 18 there in GT. But that, whatever, I don't honestly, I didn't really watch much of the Super 17 saga, so I really don't know what happened there. I know that, Dr. Mew and Giro made another 17 in Hell, and then they brainwashed the current 17, and they fused into Super 17, and then Goku punched him in the fucking gut with a dragon or some shit, and then he blew up, and then there was something about, like, dragons that happened after that. I don't know, it's kind of faded a little bit. But yeah, are you pumped for the return of Android 17? Is this new information to you about him having a wife and kids? Was this something you already knew about? How far do you think he's going to make it in the tournament? Do you think he's going to be one of those fighters that are going to be in it for the long haul? Or do you think he's going to be like 1 or 2 fights and that'll be it? Do you think his family's going to be shown? If his relationship with 18 is going to be fleshed out anymore? And more importantly, are we going to see him in his natural habitat? Are we going to see him ranging the fuck out of that park? Because I want to see him do that. I want to see him walking, like playing Firewatch, except with 17. Oh my god, that'd be great. There needs to be a DLC for Firewatch where you play as Android 17. Please get on that. That would be incredible. But I want to see him going around and he's like, hey, starting a fire, huh? you know, these are not designated places, and he fires a freaking energy shot, and he's like, oh no. By the way, that scene in the Buu Saga when he was, you know, he was in the park, and you know, there were like two hunters there, like poachers, and he like put up the gun, and he's like, hey, raise your hands, guys, you know, to trick them into giving energy to Goku. That was just in the anime as well, so the anime expounded a little bit more on the park ranger thing than the manga did. But anyway, I've gone on long enough. We don't really have much more to talk about in terms of him, because he hasn't shown up in Super yet, but he will shortly, and I welcome that. Thanks you guys for watching. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Later, guys.